Hey, it's Joy. I've got big feelings about little things, and I want to talk about it. Oh yeah, I'm mad about it. And the fact that everyone else is not up in arms about it is a big part of the problem. Oh, I bawled my eyes out, like I always do. It was the sweetest thing. Oh, it was the cutest thing. It was the funniest thing. Thanks for being here. Let's go. Hey, thanks so much for being here. I'm having big feelings this week about traveling. I love to travel, have a great time doing it, have done a pretty decent amount of it in my lifetime, I would say. I think it's a lot of fun. What is so important, though, if you're going to be a traveler, is you need a travel buddy. I think if you are married, you definitely need to include that in your decision making. Like, is this a person I can travel with? Is this a person that lines up with my traveling beliefs and how I like to do it and how I need to do it? Or if it's not, just say, hey, I'm happy to marry you and live with you and have babies with you, but we're not traveling together, which is probably tough to do. I don't have a husband, so I have a couple of folks in my life that I typically like to travel with. I told this story last week about my cousin and I going to New York to start the year, to make it a great start for the year. And it was fantastic. We are fairly great travel buddies, I would say. I think we line up on a lot of stuff. We did have one kind of difficult travel day. I will phrase it like that. We had probably one difficult travel day. And I thought it would be best if we both told the story. So we're going to come right back, and she and I are going to tell you about our one very small, very difficult travel day in just a sec. So here we are. This is Joy. Big feelings about little things. Sometimes the very little thing actually doesn't feel little in the moment. Like, I'm trying to make my flight. It doesn't feel little in that moment. But I definitely have a lot of big feelings with it. My friend and my cousin Suzanne is here. Hello, my love.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Thank you for coming. We have I would say we have sort of become little travel buddies over the last couple of years.
Yes.
What?
I think it started with the Lizzo.
So do I. I. So what happened was you just kind of out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but you had a little bug. Like, she wanted to go see Lizzo. Yep. Looked it up online, and the day didn't work for you.
Yeah, it was the day that she was in Dallas. I had like a football game that I can't miss.
Can't miss because you're a professional football player.
Yes, I'm.
You are.
I'm a high school band director.
Perfect.
And
so you kind of need to be there.
Yes, the fall is difficult.
Yes.
I can't do a lot of Fridays or Saturdays. So I was like, oh crap. But then I saw like, oh well, she's in Austin like on this Tuesday night. I'll just take a personal day on Wednesday and go down on Tuesday night and see her. And I called you and was like, hey, this is a wild hair, but my kids are getting older and less, so we're not doing as many,
not quite as needy. And not
I was
in that
like,
way,
I
but
can do this. So and we had the best time. It was so fun.
Yeah. And I was so grateful that you thought of me because
actually, hang on, back up.
You asked someone else and I,
no. I was thinking, it first started, Lizzo came actually after the first New York trip.
Oh, that's right.
Because we started doing something together at Christmas.
That's
and then it became
right.
like
and then we went to New York.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So we did.
That was like pre-pandemic.
Yes. So we both love Christmas. Mm-hmm. We got together for one Christmas thing, and then we were like
doing your travel nurse gig,
yes,
and you were out there, and I was like, I've always wanted to see New York at Christmas. And you're there, and so I flew out for the weekend.
Perfect.
And we had the best time.
Yeah, and we had to stay in that apartment that was like one bedroom, and then I shared the kitchen and the bathroom
only
with
one night because we had a hotel in the city.
That's true.
Yeah.
So okay, that's great. I'm glad you remember that. Sorry. So then, and as I think too, as anyone ages, you start to realize like, okay, I need to plan for the future, but also you never know what's going to happen. We don't know. Let's have some fun. If we need to spend a couple of bucks, let's do it. If Lizzo's not going to come to Austin every year for the rest of our lives, let's go. So you called me. You're like, I know this is crazy, but would you be open to a Tuesday night Lizzo show. And, I'm a nurse, so I have a little bit of a flexible schedule. So we made it happen. Mm-hmm. Did we drive? I'm sure we did. We drove.
We drove. I left school a little early. I picked you up at work. We drove down and
had the time of our lives, right?
Great seats.
Great
Everything
show.
worked, like super
great
smooth.
Yes. Great seats. Great show. That also, I don't know if you remember this, that was one of those random times we took an Uber to the show. Mm-hmm. And then our Uber kept canceling on us on the way back.
And then we got the same guy.
Uber driver. That has never happened to me in my life.
I know.
That was really fun.
It was weird.
So I kind of think that cemented things for us. And then it was like, in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I have this little buddy that even if I say something crazy, she's more open to it than most people.
Yes.
And so like a couple months ago, or maybe last year or something, I got a little wild hair because your brother was turning 40. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, I don't know. Is this stupid? Like, I have Miles. Should we just go surprise him?
And you called me like literally 2 days before his birthday. I mean, this was not like, hey, in 2 weeks time. It was like, hey, do you want to get on a plane?
In less than 24 hours. Yeah.
Yes. 36 hours. And we were only on the ground for like 24 hours, but it was so much fun. In fact, I just rewatched, I was looking for something on my phone, and I rewatched the video that we took of surprising him, and it was so much fun.
Which is reposted on my Instagram right now, so go watch that. It was a lot of fun. Another little blessing in that we both got upgraded to first class for that little short flight, but that was so fun, and we had a great time.
Yep.
And the whole trip was great. And so that's when you have those things where it's like, oh, you're getting these little signs like this is going great. This is you did the right thing.
Every time we've done something, it's been like all the pieces just kind of fall into place.
Exactly. Which makes us think, like, we're doing the right thing. Let's keep doing this. So anyway, I had a great time on all those trips. And we decided, for who knows whatever reason, I was ready to go back to New York. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you were too.
I think it was like in the middle of the fall, which is the busiest time of year for me. And I was just working my tail off, and I was like, I need some little carrot to dangle in the Christmas break to get to. And I called you and I was like, would you have any interest in going somewhere? And you were like, I have really been craving New York lately. I'm like, that sounds perfect.
And I thought we were so smart. I was like, you know what we should do? We should wait till New Year's is over.
And no one will be there.
Yeah. Well, everyone was there, but this is a hot tip. All the Christmas stuff is still up.
Yes.
You don't have to fight with your family about missing out on anything. We got to go to all the family stuff. We did all the things. We gave them time to clean up the confetti from the New Year's Eve celebration.
And I cared not at all that Christmas was over. I enjoyed all those windows and decorations just as much.
Same. I was looking at the tree as if it were still Jesus' birthday. Yes. It was amazing. It was still cool. It wasn't freezing cold, but it was still cold enough. Everything was still decorated. The Rockettes were still kicking. Everything was still going on.
Park. Yeah, all of it.
Everyone was skating. It was fantastic. I think they leave all that stuff up till mid-January.
I think so.
Probably for the reason that people will still come and enjoy it. And it was perfect. And mentally, I was like, this is a nice, positive way to start the year. I need something self-care-ish to start the year. And I always feel encouraged and enlightened and stuff. But specifically travel buddy wise, I feel like we are good travel buddies for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're pretty flexible.
Yes.
We're pretty flexible as far as like, we can do this or that. As long as we, get to kind of do some of the things that we're wanting to do. If there's something you definitely want to do, I'm more than happy to go with you, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I also think we're great because we're independent. Mm-hmm. If there's like you wanted to go on a 42-mile run, was it that 11? Anyway, no, and I'm just not a runner, but I'm not like, you can't go, don't leave me. I'm like, great, I need a journal.
Yes.
And so, you go run, I'll journal, we can text each other, we can meet back up. You want to have coffee, you want to have breakfast after, whatever. And I think that helps because then we really get our own vacation.
I don't want to be like, even with my husband, who I adore and love traveling with him too, I don't want to be attached at the hip to somebody. And a lot of like the beauty in traveling to me is like time by myself.
Yeah.
Someplace new. And you are a little bit that way too. And so it's.
And
we're both also like, we have things that we want to do, but it's not like overly regimented.
Yeah, 100%. And let me hand you my itinerary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have enough of that in my life. I don't need that when I'm on vacation.
I was going to say, you're a mom and a teacher. I'm a pediatric nurse. We both want to go on a vacation where we are not caring for someone besides ourselves.
Correct.
And that doesn't mean that I don't care about you.
No.
But I don't want to care for you.
Correct.
You know? So that was...
It was great.
It was fantastic. And had a great time. And I think we're really good at sharing. Like... we shared a lot of meals. We shared a lot of like that type of thing. And so that worked out great. And so when we arrived, this is kind of how we do like, hey, I'll buy this or you buy that, or we'll just split this thing. And I was like, hey, I'll just get us into the city. On the way back to the airport, you can just get us back. And so I always just grab an Uber because that to me is like easiest. I know the app and whatever. So I grabbed the Uber, I'll be honest, had a little bit of a gut punch. Everything in New York is expensive. And you know that going in, but to see it and to sign off, you know, and to like double click to pay for this. And you're like, click. Okay. You know, it's part of it. I know. So we get in this story that I told a couple weeks ago. We got to stay at my friend's apartment. It was amazing. And we had a great time. And then the day comes, we saw a show. I mean, I just want to be very clear at how amazing this thing was. We saw the perfect show. Yes. We had great drinks. We had great food. We had a great time. And then the day comes where we're leaving the next day.
Yes.
And we start to plan, right? Like we gotta, it's like, how are we gonna, what time are we gonna, and.
Well, and I knew we were going to split, like we were both kind of keeping tabs and we were going to like split everything.
Yeah.
You know, down the middle. And I remember it was like, okay, well, you got the Uber coming in, which I was going to pay, you know, half of at the end when we squared everything up. And then I went to like schedule one for the next day and it was like $100. And I just got so sick to my stomach. I'm like, or we could spend like $8 and take the train, you know, and it was, but I knew it was going to take a little more time. Like I knew that, but it just seemed to me like a trade-off that I was willing to make to save $92.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. Now on my side, I'm like, well, you know, I lived on Long Island for a little bit, so I have a very little bit of like experience with those trains. And I'm like, yeah, it's a blessing. Like I didn't grow up in a town that had great mass transit, so it is a blessing. But I also know if you're trying to make it somewhere on time, you gotta make sure. And I was just like thinking, oh, I brought a whole suitcase, and I'd rather just throw it in the trunk, but. Number one, all that you're saying makes sense. You know that I'm not a rich person.
You went with me on this one, and
I'm not
sure that you should have now, but you did.
I was trying really. I was like, you know what? I totally get where she's coming from. She's made some allowances for me, and so I am willing to make that allowance. You know, okay, let's take the train. So. We had to
wake up early.
We did. Yeah. We had a reasonably early flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened that morning?
I just remember like
you know, if someone says I just remember, there's really a little bit of haze.
To reassure you, like it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. So we got up.
And
nice
could you tell
early.
I was a little bit stressed?
I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, this is gonna be fine.
Fine.
And I will say the fact that we are still sitting here. I mean, obviously
we're alive.
We made it. So spoiler
and
alert.
Thank you for that spoiler alert. That's worth it.
But I just remember leaving the apartment like crazy early. We're the only people out, and we got down to the train station, and we made it down to the platform and everything. And it was like, oh look, see, the train's going to be here in 4 minutes. This is going to be fine.
Oh yeah.
And then 4 minutes came and went. And there's no train. And that
sinking familiar feeling of like, Oh,
and
the
then
train's running late.
And then finally, and I'm doing these calculations in my head. And I think I said to you at one point, like, if it's not here in 2 minutes, we'll just screw it and we'll go upstairs and get an Uber. And then it did manage to show up.
And you know that's all you have to say. And then this train's going to show up because it's like, well, you can count on me. You know? Yes. And then you're in the train. And I also remember you saying something like, oh, it's like something stops. And I misunderstood you. And I was like, 52 stops? Well, I was like, we do not have to. You're like, no, get your AirPods out of your ear. It was a lot, but it was not 52. No. So I was like, calm down, Joy. So, and at that point, you're just on the train. Yeah. You know, you're on the train. You're going to get there when you're going to get there. And just get there.
We were like 5-10 minutes behind schedule on that train. But I was like, we can make this up. 100%. It's going to be fine.
100%.
But what I did not really fully realize is that train takes you to another train station where you have to get on another train to go into JFK. And that is where things started to...
Because then you have to get on a little airport train to get to the right terminal.
And they were like under construction or something.
Of course.
So it was like stupid behind. And I think we had to change trains again there, and both of those, and I just my stomach kept sinking as I'm
bless your heart. And I was like, I'm trying so hard for this to work, but I also am like, I just wanted to take an Uber. But here's another great example though of us being. I said, because you're fitter than I am. I mean, you're like a great runner, and you got a couple years on me. You're a couple years younger than me. And I said, just go. Like, you don't have to turn around and make sure I'm okay.
And you also had pre-check. So that was part of that thing. Yes. Like, because you're like, I got pre-check,
and I'm gonna use it.
Yes, as you should.
So I think in that way, it's like we both know we're functional enough to get there, and even if one of us gets there first because of pre-check or because of being fit or whatever, it's like they can at least say, "Hey, the person's coming, and if you're cool, we can get it. If not, she'll catch another plane." Yes. And that would have not been fun, but we also would have been fine. Yes. Like, I don't feel like I have to make sure, you know. So I was like, you just go, you run up that escalator, girl.
and the freaking security gate. No, the security gate wasn't terribly far. But if I recall correctly, I do know that as soon as that train door. It didn't seem
very long.
No, well, for you, the security line wasn't long. For me, it was stupid long, and I've got a side story for that. But I meant, like, as soon as the train door opened, I, like, sprinted. Yeah. And I'm, like, running up the escalators, carrying I get to the security line, and, you know, it's way backed up, and it's forever, and it's packed, and I was, like, really starting to sweat at this point and going, come on, pre-check, just get her.
Oh, can we just do another side note? Is that you and I, neither of us had coffee at that point.
No.
And that is important to this story because we're both highly addicted.
Yes.
And highly function on caffeine.
I was pissed.
I was like, can anybody I wish I was in a race and they were, instead of standing there holding my Gatorade, they just had a coffee and I could just down it. I was really hurting. So, okay. So you get to the security. We're hurting.
I finally get up to, where it's my turn to show my ID and everything, and then get into the security line, start taking off my shoes and all the things that us pavos who don't have pre-check do to get through security.
What's a pavo?
A poverty-stricken, I'm not non-bougie.
Sorry. Thank you. You have to teach me all these things because you work with kids. I have no idea what people say. Okay. Thank you.
So, and I remember there was this lady behind me, and she's talking to the security lady, going, my plane is going to be boarding and I'm going to miss my plane. And the lady was like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're in line, and unless people in front of you are willing to let you go in front of them, tough.
Yeah, you got to just
cookies, lady.
Yeah, you got to just get through the line like everybody else.
So then, of course, she taps me and she's like, "I'm so sorry, my plane is. Can I cut in front of you?" And I was like, "No, my plane's leaving too. I'm sorry." And I'm
not sorry. I don't even have any coffee on board. I'm grumpy.
That's what I was gonna say.
Leave me alone.
I'm normally a very nice person, but I was not caffeinated and I was stressed, and I was like,
plus it's dog eat dog in the TSA line. Sorry, y'all.
And I told her no, and I was like, "No, sorry." And then I finally made it through security. And now I'm like, okay, I think it's going to be okay. But what I did not realize is that it was still like the gate could not have been further from the security line. It was like, oh, go this way. And I, I'm running again. I run down this hall. And then it's like, oh, go up this escalator. Okay, now go run down this hall. And it was bananas. But I finally made it. And I think you did get in before me.
Somehow I got on the plane before you because I feel like or maybe I had an earlier boarding group than yours, something like that. And we were texting. I had a sense you were still like through security or something like that.
Yes, and you were like, they're not done boarding yet. Yeah, but you had gotten on, and we did get upgraded, both of us.
I feel like we were upgraded.
Which was amazing because that does not happen, very many times.
No, it really doesn't.
But it did happen that time. And you were like, yeah, they're still boarding, so you're going to be okay. So I finally got on. And then it kind of cracked me up because the lady who was like, I have to get on the plane. And I was like, no. She got on. Not very.
Oh, it was our flight. It was the same flight. So I mean, you both were right, but you were more right because you don't get to cut the line.
No.
Sorry.
She did give me a look like, yeah, you didn't let me pass you and you're sitting up here in first class. And I felt a little bit bad for like a hot second. And then I stopped feeling bad.
Yeah, then you started feeling like, can we serve some coffee?
Some coffee before yes. Thank God I didn't have to wait for the plane to get off the ground to get some coffee because that was
tough.
Rough.
You did. I will say,
and I just kept apologizing to you. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And you did say like, I just need to meditate for like 2 minutes right here. You sat and like did your deep breathing. I was like, she is really regulating her emotions right now, and I'm very impressed with that.
I have to calm my
I have to center myself. But it all ended up okay. Yeah. So how do you feel now in the aftermath about taking public transportation?
You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
I would do it again, but I would leave earlier. I cannot stomach paying $100.
But I do want to remind you, you also said, I do see now that it wasn't like a $92 savings because we had to pay for like a couple different trains and there was some other random little thing that we had to pay.
But it wasn't as much cheaper as I would have liked it to be.
Yes, I totally understand. But I also said, for me, we're taking an Uber for the rest of our times because it's not worth. My heart rate was like 115.
I was like, I do understand that if I'm traveling with you, this will not ever be an option.
And thank you for putting that on the record. I really do appreciate that. But save
that as a soundbite.
It's saved. It sits in the intro now. So. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I had an amazing time. Yes. Even with that, it was a fun. I look back on it very fondly.
I'm so glad we started the year that way. I've honestly, like, it really did do all the right things to start 2024 that way.
I agree. And I thank you very much for being my Lizzo buddy. I know.
Where are we gonna go next?
I know. I just call like random ideas. I'm like, okay, I've got a Lizzo idea. Yeah. Let's hear it. So we'll have to plan one pretty quickly, and we'll tell you about it after we do it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Little Things, Big Feelings with Joy Delaney. I'm James, the producer, editor, director, and executive producer. Follow Joy on socials at Joy Delaney Cox on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Honestly, forget TikTok. I don't even know how to use it anyway.
You don't know how to use it anyway.
James?
Follow Joy on social at Joy Delaney Cox on Instagram and Facebook. See you next week.